Calling Alexander the Great rich would be an understatement. He was one of the richest men in history with a worth of $1.6 trillion excluding his conquered land. Today in this video, we will take you on a history tour and estimate Alexander's net worth and also how this filthy rich conqueror lavishly spent his money. We will discuss the royal treasures he acquired, his gigantic military expenses, and some of the bizarre winning celebrations of Alexander the Great. Stay connected so that you don't miss any of these interesting facts. Alexander was already rich. Being the son of King Philip II of Macedonia, he inherited the throne after the death of Philip II at the age of 20. King Philip II left him a great fortune. According to historians, the modern-day value of the treasure of King Philip II was around $500 billion, which included gold, silver, and bronze coins. Not only that, but he also left Alexander an army of 40,000 soldiers and advanced military equipment worth $100 million. Here's an amazing fact about Alexander. He was a student of Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher. Imagine Alexander's level of intelligence. Not only in war, he learned the science of administration, management, military, and much more from Aristotle. To fulfill his father's wish of conquering Asia Minor, he started an expedition towards the east. And by the age of 30, in just 10 years, he had created one of the largest empires in history. His empire stretched over 2 million square miles from Greece to India. Alexander ruled over 13 countries: Persia, Anatolia, Syria, Gaza, Babylon, Egypt, Pakistan, India, and other parts of the world. The biggest fortune won by Alexander was in the conquest of the Persian Empire in 331 BC. 2,500 tons of gold worth around $144 billion. This was just from Persia alone. One of the most expensive things in the treasure of Persia was the crown of Persia. Completely made of gold and studded with rarest gems and red velvet that was worth around modern-day $4 billion. With his mighty military forces, he won hundreds of battles and collected treasures of many countries, which included gold, silver, land, troops. According to archaeologist Frank Holt, Alexander acquired 180,000 and 200,000 talents of gold and silver from the royal palaces during his lifetime. If we sum up all his land and the treasures and adjust it with a minor rate of inflation each year, it would be worth around $4 trillion, which is equal to all the cash reserves that the Swiss bank currently holds. With all of this money, Alexander could buy Apple, Google, and Tesla overnight. According to historians, the treasure halls of Alexander were filled with around 50 tons of gold, which is equivalent to the amount of gold stored in all 13 gold refineries of Dubai. That is what he acquired. Now, let's talk about his lavish spending. He spent most of his money on the military. Historians estimate that if his military spendings are summed up for all of his 13 war years, it would be around $1.6 trillion, which equals the tax collection done by the IRS in 2020. You might be surprised to know that Alexander's military expeditions are still used to study military science. It is said that he was the first to conquer 1/4 of the world, and that too in just 13 years of his reign. To call Alexander's military expenditure big would be an understatement. You can call it gigantic, just like his army. Alexander's army was around 100,000, which included 48,000 soldiers, 6,100 cavalry, and 140 naval ships with a crew of about 38,000 people. Such a big army that it could occupy all of New York's Times Square, which is around 17,221 square miles. Based on the information in the books of history, he had 12,000 soldiers with an annual expenditure of $1.6 million just to safeguard his home country of Macedonia. This is just the beginning. According to historians, the annual expenditure during the first years of his expedition towards Asia was around $8 billion, when his army was around 57,000 people. Later in the consecutive years, these expenses almost crossed $18 billion. Alexander also gave away huge bonuses to his soldiers after the victory of battles. According to the sources, in the initial 6 years of the expedition, he paid around $24 billion in bonuses. That's $4 billion for each year. Amazing, right? But that was a normal bonus. After the victory of Persia, these bonuses also increased as he had acquired a lot of treasure from the Persian Empire. He paid $40 billion in bonuses in just 5 years after the victory of Persia. Alexander had a fleet of 150 ships that accompanied him along the coast during his expeditions. The approximate value of these ships, valued by historians, is $792 million. During the expeditions, Alexander spent money on building many temples and buildings. Alexander captured Egypt in 332 BC. To be a king of Egypt, he had to be declared divine by the priest. According to the records, he built a huge temple in Egypt at the cost of $50 million. In 331 BC, after building the Temple of Ammon, the priests honored him as the son of the sun god. The people of Egypt, who were fed up with their cruel ruler, didn't mind a foreigner ruling them. He was named the Master of the Universe and also the son of the deity Ammon, an Egyptian goddess. He founded and built the whole city of Alexandria in Egypt. During his stay in Egypt, he spent lavishly building the city. He spent around $80 million on infrastructure in the city of Alexandria. Apart from that, he paid indemnities to families of the deceased soldiers during the war. And you'll be astonished that this also included the families of soldiers of the opponents. This was the reason he was loved by the general public. These indemnities alone amount to $8.2 billion in 13 years of his reign. He threw feasts to boost the confidence and the morale of the army. Each feast cost was around 20,000 denarius, which would amount to $1.5 million. By the age of 30, he conquered most of the known world. Most people considered him cruel. Initial years of his expedition, he plundered kingdoms and used to massacre the people and sometimes even burned cities and royal palaces. In the later years, he wanted to change his image in the minds of people and started liberating his ethics. He spared the lives of many rulers and also people. To be written and remembered in the good books of people and the pages of history, he hired writers and artists to project a better image. The total expenditure on this, as recorded in history, was around $800,000. He threw entertaining parties which would go on for days and even sometimes weeks. Alexander loved gladiator games and was his best time pass when he was not fighting any war. These games were even scarier than seeing paranormal activity alone at night. Alexander wanted to keep his soldiers happy because the victory he got was due to the collective efforts of all. For this, he threw winning parties after every battle to boost the morale of the soldiers. For the entertainment of the troops, he used to organize wine-drinking competitions. The rules were, whoever drank the most would be the winner, and the winner would get a large sum of money as a prize. The most bizarre thing about these parties was that many people died during such competitions. Alexander was a food lover and spent a hefty amount of money on royal meals. Food expenses of the royal kitchen amounted to $2 billion each year. These royal meals included the famous foods of the land, peacocks, deers, ostrich. He used to carry cattle breeds of Greece for his royal meals. His food supplies were brought from Greece so that he doesn't miss his home food. During his 13 years of expedition, he spent almost $26 billion. He could have dined at Burj Al Arab, the world's only 7-star hotel in Dubai, all of his life, and yet the bill wouldn't be that much. He also paid bonuses and gifts to men who fought better and helped him win those battles. It is estimated that in 13 years of his expeditions, he gave away gifts worth $42 billion, which is even greater than Bill Gates' whopping donation of $36 billion to his foundation. However, around 40% of his total wealth was spent behind his military expenses. Even after spending billions, or say trillions of dollars, he had left 60% for himself. Imagine the amount of money Alexander the Great acquired during his reign. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to share it with your history fanatic friends who would love to know interesting facts about Alexander the Great. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss any of our interesting videos.